This is the Drake Insights Podcast, your weekly dose of cutting-edge senior living marketing insights. Join me, your host, Natasha Drake, for bold ideas, proven strategies, and inspiring stories straight from the experts. Tune in and let's conquer the senior living marketing landscape together. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Drake Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Drake from Drake Strategic. Let's get started. So on today's episode, we're going to dive a little more into sales and some things maybe we haven't talked about yet on the podcast. And I am joined by veteran of senior living, industry principal at Heart Legacy, video expert, founder and owner of Care by Christie, author and creator of the roadmap for elder care, and conference celebrity at senior living conferences. And if you don't know her and you haven't met her, I'm surprised. And I was lucky enough to bump into you at Leading Age and just sort of been following you and your journey on LinkedIn, and was so excited to meet you and officially become friends. So
yes,
thank you. Thank you for joining the podcast today. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, you're so welcome. And yes, I loved meeting you at Leading Age. I actually just shared our story of meeting not that long ago with someone and was like, yeah,
Aww.
It was like wasn't it like the final hours of minutes of the Leading Age conference?
Yes, because I was, if you hadn't seen, I was recording a podcast there, obviously, and for our listeners to understand. And so I really wanted Christie to be on. I wanted to meet her and all of that. And it was like the end of the day because it was super busy. I was there by myself, supporting Drake Strategic. And I went across because you were on the other side.
I was really far away. And my memory of this is you coming up and being like, hi, we've not officially met, but I know you from LinkedIn. Would you like to be on my podcast? And I was like, let's walk and talk, girlfriend. Let's go. And I was like, I could think of 3 words on the way because that was the premise of the podcast. And
I knew it. I knew you would be prepped and ready. You are a video expert. And I'm like, no better person to have on. So thank you for joining. And go ahead. Sorry. Introduce yourself.
No, you're so welcome. You did a beautiful job with my introduction. I honestly feel like you covered everything. So I am Christie Freeze. It's great to be here. And thank you for all the kind things that you said about me.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your history and your past in senior living. I think that's important for people to know that may not know about you. They may know you as Christie Freeze, Heart Legacy, videos, the great videos you do on LinkedIn, but maybe tell a little bit about your senior living experience, how you got here, who you work for now, and then maybe a little bit about Care by Christie.
For sure. Okay. So I'll start at the beginning and I'll try to condense and give you the Cliff Notes version. But I actually started in senior living when I had just turned 21. So it was literally like a month after my 21st birthday. And I worked in a community that was very much lifestyle sales. It was independent living. It was in this luxury area of town. And at the time we were doing the buy-in only. So it was big investments, still a good hefty rent amount. And it was a completely different sales process than I was ever used to. And so I learned every single thing humanly possible from the 2 mentors that I worked with. And once I did that, I was there for almost 4 years. And then I thought, well, what about assisted living and skilled nursing and memory care and home health and hospice? And I kind of just made it my mission since then to become really well educated and experience every single scope of care, so that in February of 2020, when I stepped out of that sales and marketing role in a community to launch my own business again, friends, in February of 2020.
Crazy.
Quality time, Christie, quality time. And I had these grand visions, of Care by Christie being an in-person workshop, in-person retreats. And for those of you that might not know what that CARE stands for, the CARE of Care by Christie stands for creating a roadmap for elder care. And so after, at that point, almost a decade of hearing people's stories, hearing people's experiences, it was the same common theme that kept coming up to me of like, the average person has no idea that these resources and solutions and options exist. They just have no idea. And to me, the mission became bigger than just my local community of people walking in and me being able to be a good resource. And so I literally created, I love like actual sketchbook paper, not notebook paper. And so I found one of those long sketchbook papers and literally drew out my roadmap for elder care and then filled it in with, 6-8 resources per area or per bucket that even if the average person flipped through this roadmap, they now are like an empowered, confident advocate for themselves and their loved one. And now that roadmap is available on Amazon. So
Yeah.
it's just been kind of like this winding journey that I would have never in 5 million years been able to predict or expect. But right before I left the senior living operator side of the house, I got a tool as a sales director called Sales Mail. And I was opening a brand new construction. And I was very perplexed as to how we were to use a video tool for something that does not exist.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it then became, how do I use this tool to educate my market and educate the most random of professionals, which I know we're going to talk more about in this episode, but it became a vehicle for me to simply educate consistently. And then when the time came to open my building, I had a vast referral network of 40, 50, 60, 70 people who were educated on what I did, knew the exact type of people that I was looking for and would be a good fit for our community. And it was just smooth sailing ever since then. And so fast forward, I now work for Heart Legacy in sales mail and recently got promoted to industry principal, which is a new term in our space, but essentially it's just the industry expert for my company. So having used the tool, used the, tips and tricks and seen success that I can pass on to our customers and our partners.
Yeah. And I do love that. I love watching your videos because same, everyone knows I came from this similar sales background and, we didn't really have video. We did, but we didn't really use it like you use it today, nor I felt like I was pretty good, I think, at doing a little bit of it in the beginning, but a lot of people don't know how. Like a lot of your videos are great. It's so nice to be able to help people with getting over their fears, discomforts. What do you say? How can this even be helpful? And so I love watching your videos.
Thank you so much. I got to
what...
just do an in-person presentation on that. I just came back earlier this week from the Assisted Living Association of Alabama. I did an hour presentation on literally what you just described. It was so fun.
It's nice to have, I'm sure the salespeople too at the community level have that guidance, because I think a lot of times it might come from an agency or it might come from, well, we need this specific video for this thing for marketing. But to know how to use it organically as a salesperson to build that rapport and that relationship is a totally
we always say
thing,
just conversational video messaging. It's a relationship building tool. It's not meant to be those like fully produced, edited. Nobody can relate to that anyway. So if you were to send this polished, perfect video, your chances of connecting with people honestly kind of lower. So it's just better to, keep your ums, look in the abyss for your words. Consistency.
Yeah. That's kind of what I do here too on the podcast. So I try my best to keep it conversational, but it is hard. It is hard. And it does take practice. I know you've said that before too. It does take, your first video might not be perfect, but
not going to be.
We'll get there. Yeah. Okay. So I want to dive in a little bit to the sales team structure and sales team. So, both of us having had experience in sales teams, when we met and we talked, whenever that was, a couple weeks ago, this really came up from you. You really came up with some really interesting, you were intriguing me and coming up with concepts and ideas that I hadn't really thought about in terms of sales teams of the past, of today, and of the future. And when I was chatting then with Kelly Myers, she kind of touched upon it too. And what I mean by that for the listeners is, our sales teams and the sales structures haven't really changed, meaning the way we do the sales, maybe it's changed from, what was it, like spin to now it's like relationship building, right? There's been some changes, but the overall sales team structure and the way it works and the way we work with referrals, that whole process hasn't really changed. And so you kind of started talking about that and sort of why this Care by Christie came to be. And I don't know if you have anything you want to dig in there in terms of the sales team that you're used to from the past and today and how it's changed and maybe how you think it will continue to change.
Yeah. So, just kind of reflecting on the sales teams of the past, I think that internally, right, it's been that like traditional sales director, maybe 2 sales directors, a regional salesperson. And I would argue that could potentially still stay the same. It just needs to function a little bit differently. And so something that we talked about when we connected last that is really just important to me in general. That's why I did the Care by Christie route, because I wanted the average person, like average people. And what I mean by average people, we're average people too, but we know 10, 15, 20, 60, 70% more than the average citizen who's never navigated healthcare
Right.
or aging loved ones. They have no idea what to expect. And I think it is very limiting and hindering of us as an entire industry to continue networking and educating within our own industry.
Right.
We know.
Yeah.
We got it. We, as a collective, have
Right.
a pretty solid foundation.
Right.
We know what the landscape looks like. Do you know who doesn't know what the landscape looks like? Financial advisors, mortgage folks, plumbers, contractors, electricians. And I know that you're probably thinking in your mind right now, Christy, like there's no way my electrician is talking to a potential prospect. And you would be incredibly shocked and surprised to learn anybody building trust with their own customers is learning the things that you need to know in order to help your prospects make a decision.
Yeah.
And we owe it to everyone to educate them on what's available.
And so let's dig in a little bit to that. So then what does that mean? Like, what does that look like then? What do you mean by that? I think let's dig in a little more.
So, and I know that I shared with you, I am and still am part of an organization called BNI, but it doesn't have to be that. So BNI stands for Business Network International. And the concept there is that it's industry specific. So there's typically 30, 35 individuals that represent their own specific seat in the chapter. So there's only one mortgage person. There's only one realtor. There's only one HVAC, only one general contractor, right? And so I really leveraged this as being the only senior living provider, the only person educating them on who I was, what I offered, who would be a good fit for me, et cetera, et cetera. And by doing that every single week, which is the cadence in which this group connects, and some are like, Christy, that's a lot of commitment. But if you can connect with people for an hour and a half once a week, that saves you so much time, so much energy, and so much effort. And now a group of 30 to 35 people are going to go out. And when they hear somebody saying, so I would train my network to listen for things like, actually, we would love to have you start on our back deck, but we can't because my mom just fell and now she's in the hospital.
Right.
Or, oh, yes, I would love to get started with that, but this happened. And then I would teach and train them to say, who is helping you with that? Is somebody helping you navigate that? Do you know of all the resources available to you so that you can be a good, confident advocate?
Right.
And that's how those referrals are made. And so by doing that, not just within my BNI group, but within my entire market, so the Boone County Senior Center, the Chamber of Commerce, outside of our little internal, Northside healthcare networking events. And there's not to say that there's anything wrong with those. If those are producing something for you and bringing you value, do it. But I would encourage you to just carve out a section, whatever it looks like for you in your market, a section of your week or your days to educate your general market.
Right. So, yeah, no, that's interesting because people that are coming, like you're saying, if you're having a referral event or an outreach event or you're going to those chamber events, things like that, all those people aren't there.
Right.
And they're not going to be the ones that maybe share that information to the greater.
They're not having an opportunity to even deep dive learn about it. We practice our elevator pitch and our 60-second spiel. But this is a relationship building business. And so wouldn't we want to build relationships with those in our local area and our local community who are literally in front of the people who need our services the most every single day and trust them?
Right. So then how can this change? So this is a great starting point. How can this change then our sales team structure? Because I know when we spoke, we talked about, well, there's a lot of competition, right? And a lot of these siloed communities, right, don't know a lot about their competitors, don't want to, or, it's this ruthless, competitive nature, right?
It's like we're selling cars. It's like we're on battlefield for a car lot.
Right. And it's like, and I know when we spoke, I hadn't really thought of that, to be honest. And you said, we need to sort of get away from that that ruthless, fighting kind of
Yeah.
competition. I know not everyone's like that. I do want to say, I know there are some markets where there are friendly competition and you all share and it's great. So let's talk about that and what could, like, I know this is like futuristic, but I think when you talked about it, I said that very much aligns with the boomer mentality and the boomer generation, like we talked about. So can you share a little bit about that, what we talked about and what
Yeah.
that could look like for
Yeah. And so
communities?
this definitely was sparked from just sharing with you how I operate Care by Christie. And
Right.
so to give a little bit of context for the listeners, how I operate my business is it's just two services, two very simple services. The first is go check out Amazon or my website and buy the roadmap for elder care and kind of do it yourself. Or
Right.
we can have a strategy session where we spend 60 to 90 minutes. All of the siblings are involved in this conversation. Everyone's hearing the same information, neutral information. And I shared with you that I will not ever in this life or my next, personally, my own personal beliefs, I will not be accepting referral fees from anyone. I'm still going to make the best recommendations based on the energy, how the dynamic is, what it is people are needing. I don't know who the best fit for you is. You know who the best fit for you is once you have a foundational knowledge of what this looks like. And
Right.
so that kind of spurred us into talking about third-party lead sources
Yeah.
and referral agencies and all of the things. And I remember when I first started Care by Christie, I was met with a lot of that prickly competition that we were talking about, where I would have case managers or geriatric care managers say, well, I do that for families. To which I would respond, great. You and 100 more of me and you still would not cover the need that we have in our local Indianapolis area, let alone
Yeah.
the country. And so I think it needs to become a shift out of that old way of being of, oh, well, if I tell you what I do and I tell you how I do it, now you
Right.
might steal it and steal my customers and steal my prospects. And that I think is really where we all need to begin, is that there is an abundance of resources, of support, of
Right.
clients, of money to fund that. There is an abundance of all of it if that's how you choose to view this.
Yeah.
If you want to view it as scarcity and that there's not enough and that there's constant lack, you're going to have a constant experience of seeing that and having that be proven to you.
Yeah. And like I talked about in the boomer episode, I mean, this is a huge demographic shift here. And consumers still, they have no idea what they're doing. It doesn't matter what generation it is, right? When they come, it's scary, it's loss, right? There's so many things going on in their life at this time. The adult children either don't have the time or don't know either, unless it's someone who's worked in the industry, can
Right.
kind of point them. And so then what happens? So then they realize they need this, they have to look for it. They go online, right? And they look at what shows up, listed in Google or your search, parameters of who's in your area to go to. Then they go to the community, right? Say they schedule a visit. And they go and they meet with a salesperson. Well, immediately, right, that boomer, whoever, feels sold to because they feel like, well, you just want me to buy here, right? And it takes a while. It takes a while for that salesperson to gain that trust, build that relationship. But you're just going to one community. And so I think when we talked, it was like, how do we change this to have an option like your Care by Christie really is that whole concept.
Yeah.
Is creating that Care by Christie concept in different pockets of markets throughout the country so that prospects and families can go get, and we can talk about what this looks like because I don't really know. You're better at this than me, but really what does that look like in terms of they go and they get resources and they can see all the different communities that in an area and all the different sales directors. And then the beauty happens, right, where the sales directors and marketing directors can work together and find the right community fit for all those prospects.
Correct.
Like, I don't know exactly how that I want you to explain it a little better than me, but I think that's beautiful. And I would love for our future to get to that point.
I know. I feel so passionate about it alongside you because I literally witnessed it happen. I did this in my own market, which I know sweet baby Indiana is a little different than other markets. And my specific county that I worked in was very close-knit, very community-based. Everyone knew everybody and what everybody was doing. And it's got that pros and cons, but the pro is that we had 3-4 options. And so my job in my mind was to become as well educated on those other options as I was on my own option. So that if you, Natasha, are telling me what is important to you or your family or your loved one, and I know I don't provide it here, guess what? You're not moving here. And I used to joke that I was a bad salesperson because of that, but no. I got so many more referrals and so much more trust was built with referral partners, with prospects, with the community at large, that it was a launching pad for me to do something like Care by Christie, where people had then built trust in me that I am not trying to sell you. I always like pause before I say this because I don't want it to sound like cold and harsh, but I don't care who you choose to use.
Yeah.
I don't care what option you decide is best for your loved one. I care that people know that there are options and resources for them to choose from.
Right.
And it could be Care by Sally. It could be Care by Kim. The care part is just creating a roadmap for elder care. And if you know that roadmap in your own local market, I would invite you to do the same thing. And my roadmap for elder care is already on Amazon, so don't steal that. But the concept is there. We'll definitely talk more about it. But it's something that is literally, in my mind, just simply a resource that I envisioned if I was a family that had no idea, no concept of this, because that's the other thing, right? We have to shift this as an industry for the general collective. What I mean by that is they think that if they don't make eye contact with older adults or aging services or senior living or elder care, that it just won't happen to them. Because in their minds, boomers and beyond, in their mind, it is, I have to stay home alone by myself and pass away here. Or I have to go to a long, dark, scary hallway where people are screaming for help. And those are the only options available to me because that's all I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
It's up to us to tell them and show them and educate them. That is not, in fact, the case. It is 2025. And we have a plethora of options available. And so my main mission and my main goal is to simply just let anybody that I come into contact with know that. Typically, lately, that's been people on planes. And so when they ask you what you do, I like to say, I've created a roadmap for elder care. And I use video to communicate that message and leverage the ability to build trust with prospects, their families, referral partners, and my team.
Yeah. And how can we explain, because I'm playing the role of listener right now and thinking, okay, that exists, right? We have third party, referral sources and we have paid referral sources. So maybe let's talk a little bit about how that's different, how that can work differently for many different reasons.
Yeah. So I've seen it done well and I've seen it done not so well. And the times I've seen it done not so well really paint our industry in a not so great light. And so if we're going to do it, what it looks like done well is still serving as the resource and serving as the guide. So if, you as the third party lead source get that inquiry, it needs to not be about I'm getting paid from A, B, or C. What you've just told me actually is a way better fit for community F. And I don't get referral fees from them, but that's the best route for you. So let's go there. And that isn't happening as much as it should be happening. And so that's where we get in that like kind of tricky spot, right? Are we making the best decision for the prospect and their family? Or are we making a decision based on some binding that we have in order to get paid? And how my service works is the family pays me one time for that 90-minute session. They can buy the roadmap. If they do a session, I give them the roadmap, but it's a one and done fee. And it's simply just for my time. Because knowledge literally lives within the core of my being. They're my favorite things to do because I can just show up, listen, provide back that foundational information. And, more often than not, it's bringing siblings together. That's the other thing is I think that as sales, we can try to work the family dynamic in our favor sometimes. And instead it needs to be 5, 6 siblings are involved in this conversation. What do you each love to do and do best? And how can we help you find where your role is in this family dynamic? Instead of sassy, lots of prickly energy, now loved one passes away. And now we have bitterness, resentment, and frustration within our family dynamic that didn't even need to be there. Maybe brother Tom is really good at finances and we've been trying to get him to do the grocery delivery. Well, let's let him just be good at the finances and help us with that. So I think it's really just being a good guide.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't want to talk poorly on here about those third-party paid referrals. But, I've worked with a lot. I worked with a lot of communities. I work with a lot of agencies. And so this comes up a lot, right? Because we are in competition most times with them, at least digitally. It's hard to rank against them. We're doing better these days. But we have to, as an industry, realize exactly what Christie is saying. I mean, what you are saying is we need to be able to all come together. It's a small industry. Even though it's so expansive, how many communities there are and how many people there are. But in terms of the industry and us industry professionals, it is so small. We need to all get together and partner and work together and be able to compete again so that the places that are referring, like you're saying, aren't just guiding these lost people to communities that just pay them referral fees.
Correct.
And it needs to be the right fit. And I think we can all get together and change this mentality, change the structure. Man, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. I was like, this doesn't seem that hard.
It's just like not.
It's not.
It's not. But I think that, I think we can get very easily caught and trapped in we've done it this way. This is how we've always done it. And if it's not broke, it might not need fixing, but I would argue that it is. Because the amount of people coming our way that have no idea.
Yeah.
They have no idea what awaits them or what options exist. And so do we run the risk of them missing out on the positive side of it and painting that more positive experience and perception for them? That's like one of my biggest goals is when someone's like, oh, you work in a nursing home and there's nothing wrong with nursing homes, but no, I actually work in senior living and they are in fact different. Or I work in senior care and that's different than a nursing home. And it's really just not getting defensive and meeting people where they are. And then very subtly, it's like, oh, they're looking at it in this way. Let's just shift you into here. Like, what if you looked at it through this lens? And more often than not, we can get people to really shift with us, especially if we have had positive experience, which more of us than not have. So we know what it looks like inside of a community. We know what it looks like and how impactful it is to people's quality of life and that they get to go there. They don't have to go there. Wherever.
Right. And this keeps coming up on a lot of these boomer episodes I'm doing. And I feel like a lot of them, it just keeps coming up because this is what we're faced with is the idea of changing our language, right? And the ways we talk about what we do and talk about our communities and talk about care and the way we talk about hospitality to this generation. We're changing our marketing. There's more AI, there's more tech, right? Video, all these things. But the sales and referral structure isn't changing. And to your point, we need to meet them where they are. And this, I truly believe, like I am so on board with this concept. Like we need to somehow get this built. And so if you're listening to this and you know that you have, a network and a community where this could be a thing, reach out to Christie because we need to get this going and created. Because also back to the paid referrals. So what I like to tell, a lot of my clients with the paid referrals, we've always done it. Well, so what ends up happening is you're then competing with them on your website, right? And they're ranking higher because it's hard to compete with The Place for Mom and those other ones. And then what's happening is they're getting the information from them, not from you, who knows your community and your market best. I could go on and on. This could be a whole episode, but I think we just need to rethink that. Yeah. And there's a way around it. So one thing I did want to talk about, so I'm also playing the role of listeners and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds great in theory, but I can hear my operator, the owner saying, well, how can this actually help with all the competition? How is it actually going to help increase occupancy? We need to be competitive. We need them to move here and not there. And I think you've said, right, that this did help. It helped actually with your occupancy. Can you talk a little bit about that? And
it's a beautiful segue because I also want to share with you and all of you listening a framework that has proven to be successful for me and hundreds of teams that I have trained. And so you as an individual are what's going to set this apart from anybody else using this framework. So that's really important to remember. But how I leveraged video in this paid referral inbound lead process, I'm going to tell you that because it really made a difference and it made a difference for my prospects. And so let's go through it together. New lead comes in. I now know, because of my experience in the space, that family A is not getting 2 or 3 calls. They're probably getting 6, 7, 8 phone calls from people, all trying to get that speed to lead as quickly as humanly possible. And so right now, Natasha, in the middle of our conversation, if you were to be getting calls by 5, 6, 7 people, would that encourage and inspire and excite you to continue searching for senior living?
No.
Probably not. It probably makes you want to throw your phone into like the ocean.
Yeah.
And so how I worked around this, because to your point, my operator, my ED, my regional, everybody had expectations in place for these referrals. And so I would still pick up the phone and call. But in that voicemail that I inevitably had to leave, I would say, "Hey, Natasha, I know you're probably being bombarded right now by a lot of phone calls and a lot of folks reaching out to you. And so what I want you to do when it's convenient to you is check your email. There's going to be an email in there with a quick introduction video from me telling you a little bit about who I am, the community that I represent, and if it makes sense for us to continue discussions and seeing that if this is a good fit for you, all of my contact information will be there. And then do that thing." And so I had an evergreen, which just means general video that said, "Hi, I'm Christie from Anson Senior Living. I can't wait to connect with you and share with you who we are, what we do." And I would pop that in an email, video for Natasha in the subject line so she knew it was coming. It's from me. And I've already started to build trust because I did the thing that I said I was going to do. And I did it in a way that respects their time and energy and when they have an opportunity to respond to me. And that built trust quicker. I got more conversions from that cadence than any other process that I ever did because I was the only person doing it. And that, I think, is how we at least start breaking up the noise of not attacking, because when we do that, it's so subtle. But when we do that, we shift how people think of us, and then we become that car salesman type seller. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not even here to sell them our property or our community. We are here to educate them on our community. And if they buy it as a result, that's a win.
Right.
But I think and it's like psychological. It's like something that I know that operators and people in charge of revenue are like cringing in their seats about. I understand. I know I can feel it, and it's not even been released into the wild. But it's almost like a trust fall. It's like, I guarantee you, if you try it this way without having proof that this way works, your success will be inevitable. And the ROI will be 3, 4x what it would be if you do it the same old way we've been doing it.
Right. And I think David Smith in 101, he did have data on that actually. And sort of that, not specifically to the video, but in terms of planning process and being relationship guy and that whole thing. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, David, but I remember him having.
I learned that. Yeah.
I remember it showing that the time it took to sale was shortened, the length of stay was longer, and occupancy went up. So I know it is proven. And I think back to the idea of competition too, I know you were saying, by partnering with your competitor, it's hard to say like that, partnering with your competitors, but yeah, creating this kind of concept we're talking about. If you don't know your competition and they don't know you, like you're saying, they're probably not bad-mouthing you, but giving false information. Whereas if we all knew what everyone's strengths are, right, and what all of the surrounding communities were good at and all of those things, it would help your occupancy because they would think of you. Oh my gosh, I know Christie and her community does XYZ. We are good at, these 3 things, right? And being able to, like you're saying, if all of you have that idea and that concept and that relationship, there's enough prospects to go around.
Oh, good Lord.
Like you were saying. And so I want everyone to kind of not be afraid of that, fearful of, well, then the competition's going to get, all the leads if I don't.
And if the competition gets your leads, it's probably because you weren't a good fit for that family. Right. And if you do the thing that we're trying to really like drive home and anchor in here, what happens is I think that we get so laser focused on that specific prospect and we forget entirely that prospect has friends, has family members, has their own vast network of people who might be a good fit for our community. And just because they weren't doesn't mean we shouldn't badmouth or talk, trash about the competitor down the road. They're not a competitor down the road. They're just a better fit for people with different personalities, different needs, different energy.
Right.
That is the very subtle difference that is not so subtle. It could be profound if we became so well versed. I knew the people personally. I knew their residents somewhat personally because I was visiting my competitors consistently. I needed to know what they did and how it felt in there. I'm very much like a feelings and whimsical gal. And if you know me, you know that to be true. But what that does is if I'm getting a vibe from you that this is maybe too fancy or not fancy enough, or maybe we
Right.
don't have a pool and swimming is your favorite physical activity. Well,
Right.
I then can say with confidence, you should go right down the road to this community. They're going to take such great care of you. And if you have somebody that doesn't actually care about having a pool, send them to me. I would love the
Right.
referral from you in the future.
And most of the time when prospects and their families are touring, it is a feeling. I mean, that's right. That's how we are as humans.
Yeah.
Yes, it's about the care and yes, it's about a lot of the other things, but it is a fit. And I have a community that I do marketing for in a specific area near me where there's a couple competitors in the same within like 10 miles,
Mhm.
right? Or maybe even less than that, 8 miles. They're so different.
Yeah.
Just such a different feel. They offer the same thing, similar price, a little bit different, but so, so different. And I was just thinking, if they had this type of partnership, yeah, like
They would
someone
help
comes
each other.
here. Yeah,
They would look at,
totally.
like, I think that we're closing off so many revenue streams
Right.
by doing the sales how we've always done it.
Yeah.
It's just like this big block of a wall that says, no, we don't want referrals from I like to
Right.
call them sister communities, even though they're
Right.
not under the same parent brand.
I totally agree.
Or brother communities, if you want to call them that. Siblings. And I just, I think we close ourselves off from that revenue stream and we close ourselves off from the revenue stream of literally all of the people who are in like that BNI setting or that networking setting. I literally just got a referral from our roofer because he is the type of person, he's the owner of the roofing business, and he is the type of person that he will get to know the clients that he's working with. And it was an older couple that he was replacing their roof. And the wife said, my husband has just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. I'm on the board for the Indiana Parkinson Foundation. And so that was a beautiful, natural referral because Alberto
Right.
knows exactly who I am and what I do and how I feel about this entire industry
Right.
who we serve. And so it was a no-brainer for him to say, hey, are you connected with Christie at the Indiana Parkinson Foundation? Do you know the resources exist to support you? And so we write off those people that we think
Yeah.
could never send us a referral.
Right.
And I think it's very naive of us to think that they're not building trust and trying to connect with their prospects and clients just like we are.
Yep. I mean, how much easier is it, I'm thinking, for someone to refer to someone who they know is a resource and guide that will help you through the process and help you find the right community, not necessarily John Smith at this community. Like
Correct.
we have to change that perception of I'm John Smith, but I have sister and brother communities and we work together and I'm going to help you. I'm going to be a guide and walk you through this process. You're more likely to refer to someone who's on a specific community,
Yep.
right? You're going to refer to someone who you know is going to help them find the right community.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, let's get this going. Before we end, we have a lot of nuggets. Thank you so much, Christie. A lot of great, great tips, key takeaways for people. But do we want to end, what are some actionable takeaways you want to make sure the listeners remember?
Yeah. So obviously I care about video more than all other modalities of communication. And I believe that sales mail is the easiest tool to do that. But even if you're not using sales mail, I would encourage you to create a video that introduces yourself and tells the general public who you are, what you do, where you do it, and why you're doing it. And so that might look like, hi, I'm Christie. I do work for Anson Senior Living, but I'm passionate about educating our community and our market on aging services and what resources are available for older adults. If that is ever something that you are in need of, you have someone asking questions about, I want to just create this pathway and opportunity for you to feel comfortable in sending them to me, and I'm going to take great care of them. And then use that video to reach out to the most random of people. And it's not really that random when you think about, like, I actually draw it out sometimes of like, okay, who shares clients with me? And right now it's estate planning attorneys, it's elder law attorneys, it's financial advisors, And it's the people that are building trust with their prospects who will ultimately have aging loved ones. This is a thing too, friends, where in my networking group, especially when I first got started in this in 2016, they would like look around the room. They'd be like, who could she possibly be talking about that has aging loved ones? Guys, it's you. Like,
Yeah.
it's all
Everyone does.
It's
Yeah.
everyone. It's all of us. And so we not only need to do it for those of us that have aging loved ones, everyone, but we also need to do it for ourselves because we're next.
And I do want to give a little segue. Sorry to interrupt you here,
No,
but
okay.
after I met Christie, you sent me a video afterwards to my email, and it was so impactful to me. Just little old me, having a little call with Christie. So first of all, thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
But it did. Like, I'm just a good way to say the impact it had on just me, and knowing, wow, this is someone that I have created a friendship with, a bond with, I can trust her. It worked for me. If it works for me, who does marketing for a living and can see through, it really does work. So,
and I love that. Thank you so much for that feedback and that reflection.
Yeah.
And maybe my last thing that I'll leave everyone with is my favorite quote. It comes from the book Rehumanize Your Business. So that's 12 out of 10. Read that book. But from the quote, or from Rehumanize Your Business, the quote is that video creates psychological proximity in the absence of physical proximity. And so we're able to build trust through this modality. Why it felt good for you is because we had just had a conversation and you knew that how I was showing up for you was the exact same that I just was on our call. And you were able to see my tone and my emotion and my inflection. And that is how we continue to build relationships. So remember that quote, step outside your comfort zone, do things a little bit differently than you're doing them right now, because I guarantee you will see the results of them.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, this is so great. We could talk about this for probably 3 more hours.
1,000%.
But honestly, I mean, if you don't know Christie, please reach out to her, whether it's about videos specifically, follow her, watch her videos, learn tips, or if it's to learn more about Care by Christie and how she can even help you to develop this in your market, your neck of the woods. I would love to see that. And I'd love to have a follow-up podcast of all of the locations you've helped people set up, because I just think it's a really cool way. And it's the future of senior living, and we need to get behind it. So thank you so much again, Christie, for joining. Come again. Come join us again. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Drake Insights podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Real quick, if you enjoyed watching the podcast today, please follow me and subscribe so you're notified for the next podcast. And if you have any questions or want to talk after about anything that Drake Strategic can provide for you, please reach out to me, call me, email me, or visit our website at drakestrategic.com.